Several years ago, I was on a photography course in London where one of the attendees told me about Jim Mortram, as I'd mentioned I was from Norfolk. I hadn't heard of Jim before, but after seeing his images, I immediately did some research. Jim is an award-winning social documentary photographer and has appeared in countless articles and magazines, including the British Journal of Photography, and is famously known for his social documentary project, Small Town Inertia. Jim lives in the Norfolk countryside and is a full-time carer for his mother, only getting 4 to 5 hours free per week, a fascinating feat considering the amount of work that he's able to do in that free time. Every time I see Jim's work, new or old, I always question the reason behind my own photographs, a clear sign of how well Jim's work grabs you and how photography can do this. Over time, I've understood that it's not always about the photo. Here are a few things that I've learnt through Jim's influences. Due to the time-consuming tasks of being a carer, the only time Jim found himself free was at night. He would often take late-night walks to help clear his head. During these walks, even at times as late as 2 a.m, he would see an elderly chap sitting on his porch known simply as WH. Jim had seen him many a time throughout his life, though never spoke to him. Only until when he went on these walks did he find the need to chat. During this time, he'd also been given a camera to borrow. Naturally, he began photographing his conversations with WH, though shortly afterward, WH passed away, and it was then that he realised he knew what he had to do. Due to the severity of his mother's condition, Jim is unable to venture too far from home, or the fact that a carer's wage could ever offer such luxuries as a car. Because of this, shooting locally is his only option. However, this hasn't deterred him from giving up. I expect the opposite has happened, clearly from seeing his images. What great way to be part of the community, and wouldn't you have more of a personal connection to where you lived? Jim once said that all you need to do is look to the person next to you for a story, and I'm sure people are more willing to open up than we actually think. Start a conversation, you never know where it might lead you. The project has evolved somewhat since its early days, however Jim's method has remained the same. Not originally being from Durham and moving to the area early in life, Jim felt very much like an outsider. Because of this, he's gravitated towards those with similar feelings. With all types of photography, and it just being human nature, we always make snap judgments on what we see, even more to those whom we see as being less privileged. Because of this, the people he photographs can't just be quick snapshots. Instead of 1 or 2 visits, Jim will spend years photographing them to get a real understanding of their stories. Imagine if you were being documented, wouldn't you want to have the whole truth to be told? Due to this long-form type of photography, Jim is able to reveal these 2 sides of the story to help better make the viewer understand. The one thing that every photographer should do is be themselves, something that you can't teach in 5 easy steps, and only what you gain through experience. To be invited into someone's life and to experience all of those personal things shows you how much trust they put in him. Just because you have a camera doesn't give you the right to do certain things. Respect should be given. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Jim mentions that there are 3 things that you should always do: be nice, be attentive, and listen. He also often says that he talks more than he shoots and listens more than he talks. One of the reasons why people open up to Jim is his honesty and genuine personality with the biggest heart. With any long-form type of photography, you really have to think hard if this is something you want to do, especially if you'll be entering people's lives. Regardless of the story being told, be prepared to take on more responsibility, and in some cases, you'll even have the privilege to call them friends. Jim is a strong advocate against the use of the word subject. Firstly, because we're all one and the same, just people. But secondly, because he may view them differently. If he saw them as the former, he'd probably find it hard to get close and truly document them honestly. In fact, you can clearly see from his images that the people around him trust what he's doing from how intimate the photographs look. Because of the circumstances that some of these people go through, for Jim, it's like being on call, where he describes it as like friends asking for help. These are people who you can't just brush off because you're not in the mood. No matter how hard things get, never give up, because you'll just abandon the project, but more importantly, the people who've put their trust in you. It's hard to solely call Jim a photographer. Instead, he uses the term conduit, which seems quite fitting. Right from the start, Jim's purpose has been to give those a voice whom are often ignored. In today's society of the internet being a part of everyone's lives, it's hard not to get caught up in the mentality of being liked, though you should never do it for the likes, and it should always be for the story. Even though Jim calls himself a conduit, it's not the only thing he has to be. He also has to be a facilitator. Everyone grades success differently, and many would say that Jim's had great success, though this may seem hard from my introduction. Though Jim's idea of success would be if he's done a good job at showing the story, created images that support the testimony, and done as good as he can to support it, then maybe that's success. Coming from a fine art painting background, Jim is very aware of composition and how a canvas can be divided to aid the narrative of a scene. As you can see from Jim's work, he shoots predominantly black and white. The one thing that black and white does is emphasise shapes, because you don't have colour to help with separation. One of the reasons why he shoots black and white is because at the start he had a broken monitor which was only suitable for mono work. However, not only because of this reason, but for how a scene reads and feels. Due to the environment that Jim works in, composition can be more described as being organic. Even though you might know all of these compositional rules, influences from other photographers, or skills that you've learned in other creative forms, it's only until you're in a situation when those other influences really affect the way you see a scene. As with any type of art form, composition is a key fundamental to creating an image or a photograph. It's what makes an image flow and look pleasing to the eye. However, it can also make an image feel uneasy and even create tension. Whenever I look at Jim's images, I always see the emotion within them, a purpose and reason of why he does what he does. Though I also question the meaning of my own photography and how to make mine emotional. Though Jim mentions that it's experiences we have individually which determine our way of seeing and feeling. Maybe I've just yet to have those experiences. Even though I too have experienced lows, maybe I've yet to realise how to express this. One thing that's striking about Jim's photographs is his strong sense of light and contrast. Jim mentions that it's light which controls a scene, determines mood and feel. Sometimes this can be limited in the type of environment Jim works in, but it's how to utilise this light that helps make an image. Maybe what also adds to the emotion is being able to relate to what you see. Jim is constantly updating his website as often as he can, where you can see testimonies of his stories. I highly recommend reading them as it gives a better understanding of the people's lives and the struggles that they live with every day. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Jim's work, I'll leave a link to his website in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.